These are our binders, and we are doing it a little bit differently this year. Our tabs, we still have the daily tab, but then all of our review work, I used to put together a collection from each kind of category, like Proverbs, passages, all of that kind of thing. I used to put them together as in day of the week tabs. So we have a Monday tab, and we just go through and do everything on the Monday tab. And then Tuesday, everything on the Tuesday tab. But that's just a lot of page protectors and a lot of pulling papers out and putting papers in and making sure everyone's is exactly the same so it'll work. And it was just getting ridiculous. So now I have tabs. Our tabs now are Psalms, Proverbs, and those are all the review Proverbs in one section, all of our review Psalms in one section, and then we'll just go through and basically loop them. So we'll use the little post-it flags and there'll be a post-it flag at the top to keep track of which one. I would say this is Cindy Rollins. She started morning time. But it's an application of Charlotte Mason. So Charlotte Mason, and classical too, because it's where we do our memory work and where we gather and really focus on what's true, good, and beautiful. So it's a way of doing, it's a method for applying the Charlotte Mason or classical principles, I would say. So then we'll go through and do one psalm, one proverb. In the middle is our review hymn section, and we'll do that. So we have a lot of hymns because we've done 6. Yeah, really. At least, so we've done 6 hymns a year for 8 years. So that's a lot of review hymns. So only half of them are in this. And then for our next term, I'll switch out this half and do the second half. And the same with our passages. And so we'll just go through. And I have explanations of how I set up the binder this time for this next year at my post today at simplyconvivial.com. So do you have any more questions about morning time and how we do it? So I have all my papers here. So you can see these are our poems for the first term, and you can't really see it because of the glare of the light, but I just go through then and say, okay, first Hans's poem is, I wouldn't say we were doing all of them. I'm picking and choosing, and let's see, so we probably have 40 psalms probably in our review repertoire. And I wouldn't say that those are memorized, but they're familiar. Some of them are memorized, all of them are familiar. So when I'm going through and putting these, all right, starting. Well, morning time is a great place to start. And if you go to my blog, simplyconvivial.com, and you click the morning time tab, I even have a little free download. It's like 5-page how to set up your very first morning time and how to keep it simple, because all of these papers and these big binders, the only reason I have that is because because we've done it 8 years. This is going into our 9th year of circle time, so we just have a lot. But that's not how you start out. And so picking, our very first one, Simply Convivial, Convivial. My youngest is 3 years old. So she doesn't have she has a binder so that she can have one, but it's not going to have every single page in it. It would be way too heavy for her. So like our first morning time when my oldest was in kindergarten, we sang Holy, Holy, Holy and the doxology. We learned Psalm 1, and we learned the catechism for young children. And that's all. It took about 10 minutes. Oops, I missed that question. I think it was something about learning the hymns. I like to choose our hymns based on ones that our church sings frequently, so that our kids then are familiar with them for church on Sunday. That's part of my motivation. and how I select the hymns. And that happened this last Sunday. My 5-year-old sang the hymn without the hymnal in front of, or I guess he's 6. My 6-year-old sang the hymn without the hymnal because he knew it. It was one that we had done. All right, and so did my 11-year-old. He wants credit for that as well. I love the Catechism for Young Children. It has 145 questions, and you can find a link for that on my site there. And it starts off with, who made you? God. What else did God make? God made all things. So about the first 10 or 15 questions, my kids learn when they're 3, and then it kind of builds off from there. No, not Catholic. I'm Protestant. I'm Reformed. So we go to URC church, which is like OPC, PCA, Reformed. So even some Protestants have catechisms. They are a very good way to teach our children basic truths. So these are our poems. So when I'm pulling Kate Boyce out, go to the living room. You're not going to wrestle in the background. So these are the poems. I put my oldest one first and my second one back to back, and then slip it in the folder 5 times for everybody's binders. And then I make stacks so that when they're in the binder, in the daily tab, the top part is one son's poem, flip the page, next son's poem, then my daughter's poem, 6-year-old's poem. The 3-year-old has her own poem, and then I have my own poem because I don't want to be left out of the poetry memorization. Well, they're just there at the table with us, soaking it in, even if they aren't able to participate really. They have some coloring stuff or a snack, or they're just sitting there being noisy, but they've all just kind of come along as we've done this, because I've been doing this ever since my oldest was 5. And we're just all at the table, all together, everybody, even nursing baby. I would try to have do morning time when the baby was nursing, so that's what the baby was doing. Or they're just at the table coloring or have some small toy. Then we're just, I'm not asking them to memorize it, so they're still just being exposed to it, even though they don't know. It might be new to the review for some, new for others. That's definitely the way the review works. And that's why everyone has their own binder, so we are reading it together. So there isn't that pressure. Like, I'm not expecting them to have it memorized. We're all just going over it. And I think on that page, I'm sure I have a link to a post called Not Word Perfect. I have the section. So we'll do one psalm in these binders, and the psalms, this whole section of that's a Proverbs section, but this whole section of Psalms are all Psalms that have been daily before. And so we'll just go through and we will read together, or I'll say everyone alternate a sentence. So one person will read one sentence, the next person will read the next sentence. That kind of helps keep them on their toes. And we just go through. And for some, there'll be a review. For others, that'll be not as familiar. The ones that have a harder time reading just kind of are brought along. I try to keep it as low pressure as possible, because I really think just the repetition over and over is what I'm aiming for here. I don't know why that flipped around, and it's not like you wanted to see the 11-year-old eating green beans from the garden, but that's what he's doing. I'm sure you can hear him. So we just go through and we just do one, and it's just really low key. We just go over it, and that's why everyone has their own binder, is because I'm not expecting them to have these memorized. We're just repeating and reading them together. And it looks like this one was actually not in the binder. So I'll fix that before I close it. And these are better binders from Staples, and I love them, and they have lasted really well. So these binders the kids have used every day, been hard on, pulled off the bookshelf, put back on the bookshelf, and this is going to be the 4th year that we've used these exact binders, and they are not showing any signs of falling apart, which is absolutely incredible. All right.